Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. Anchor gives you everything you need in one place for free, which you can use right from your phone or computer. Creation tools allow you to record and edit your podcast so it sounds great. They distribute your podcast for you. It can be heard everywhere, such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and many more. You can easily make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to start today. I would like to welcome Mandy Storm of Done by Storm Wedding Planning to the podcast. Say hello, Mandy.
Hello.
Nice to meet you. You kind of reached out and contacted me because you've been listening to the ISP Films podcast. We've had multiple of different guests on, and I'd like to welcome you on as a guest.
Well, thank you for having me.
All right, I'd like to get into it. Just tell me a little bit about yourself and where you're located, what you do.
So we do wedding planning. What makes us a little bit different is we only do weddings. So instead of doing other events, corporates, that kind of thing, we do anything wedding related. So that kind of makes it unique. I am based out of Madison. We have multiple planners in the company, so we pretty much do the entire Midwest. And then we are still hiring and we're still growing. So we'll be hitting more states soon.
So is this your company or is it like a chain thing?
It is. It's my company.
Okay.
I started 14 years ago as just kind of a wedding planner. It was a hobby along a 9-to-5 job. And it just kind of grew into what it is now. So we're talking about franchising, which might happen in the next 5 to 6 years. But as of right now, it's basically my company. I'll do all the training, hiring. So
How many employees do you have?
Currently we have 5.
5.
Yep. And
Awesome.
then, 5 planners. We also have setup and tear down crews.
Yeah, I was just going to say, do you do all the setup and tear down yourself? How does that work?
Yeah, so we hire outside. We do independent contractors, people looking for part-time work, side income, that type of thing. Pay them all on a 1099, and as long as they do good work, we hire them back for more.
Yeah, that's cool. So what do they do? Do you do any floral arrangements, or is it just basically setting up tables in the venue to helping serve, anything like that?
We do it all. When it comes to basically anything manual labor involved with weddings, we can do it. Some venues, we have to go completely from like rock bottom all the way up. So we have to unload tables, chairs, set those up, do centerpieces. A lot of the florists will kind of tweak with their own. If they order like Costco, that kind of thing, we'll do arrangements. We can't serve alcohol, but we can help with like catering, buffeting, watercrafts, all that fun stuff, and then obviously tear down at the end of the night.
Dismissing tables, things like that for people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what is your process? What do your clients expect? What would your clients expect if I was going to book you out for my wedding?
Depending on what you're looking for, we do a wide range of service, anything from day of coordination all the way up to full planning. But what's really nice about our company, because we're always training, we're always kind of educating, that type of thing, it's more of a personal one-on-one connection. So instead of us basically telling you what you need to do, what should be done, deadlines, this type of thing, we're really involved with our brides and grooms on the bigger picture and the smaller details. Okay. So it's kind of neat because you get more of that personal experience. It's more like working with a family member that happens to have years of experience versus just an outside vendor.
Do you do all the vendor meetings too? Like if they were going to hire me for video or photography, do you sit down on that, or are you more day of planning?
We do, like I said, all the way up to full packaging. So absolutely. We'll be there right with them with the vendors. We advocate for both the vendors and our clients, which is really nice. So before the meetings, if clients have unrealistic budgets, let's say they want 2 photographers all day for the full 8-hour package plus engagement, all that, and they want to spend like $400.
Yeah.
We'll kind of have that private meeting with them before we even meet with the vendors, so they're prepped.
That's encouraging. Yes. Definitely.
And then obviously advocation for them, because we're working with them, we know their style and what they're looking for and what they want to achieve.
Yeah.
So it's kind of nice because we can relay that too, because we've worked with vendors in the past and they necessarily haven't done that,
Yeah,
we're able to kind of help on both sides as a meeting
definitely.
party at the table.
That kind of leads me to my next thought is I'm looking at your website right now is why should you hire a planner? And I think you made a great case right there is to set realistic budgets for all the other vendors and yourself. So anything else, any other tips that you can think of why you would need a planner?
Not only to help with the budgeting and to stay on track with what you can spend, but also to help save money.
Yeah.
Because we've been doing this for so long, we know so many different wholesale companies. We have so many different ideas from past weddings and ideas of our own. And it's really, really easy for us to take a somewhat expensive idea. Pinterest is kind of a love-hate for wedding planners.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
And we can take those ideas and show you ways to save money, but still get that same look
Feeling
and
of
that
it.
appeal.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I see so many brides that do it and they say they can do it on their own. And for the most part, they can handle it. But I think their experience would be a little bit better if they had someone that was more experienced with the industry and just helping them out through the day so they can just sit back and relax their day with their day. So that's your next thing on your website is why people don't hire a planner. And I think I just covered it, but maybe you can add a little bit more insight into what you think everybody's reasoning is. Main one I can think of is they're control freaks. They want to do everything themselves and they have a hard time letting things go. Because I'm exactly like that. That's how I am in my business. I want to do everything. So what else do you think would be on that line?
Yeah, so you kind of hit on the two main points. Usually it's they don't want to give up the control, just like you said.
Yeah.
That's what's nice about our approach and the way that we train all of our planners in the company because we have more of a by your side versus this is what you need to do type of approach. And then the second reason usually is budget.
Mhm.
You can do your own taxes. You could, do your
No,
own car
I
repair,
cannot do my own
right?
taxes. That is a
It's something
definite
you can
no.
do.
Definitely not.
But like you said before, it really does help to pay somebody
Yes.
who's a pro in that area to do it. If you do your own taxes, that's fine. There's tons of forums
Mhm.
online. Even the IRS will show you exactly how to fill out the forms. But if you have a
Still be
CPA
confused
do it,
though. Yeah.
you can get a bigger exactly, or you get confused or you do something wrong. I've seen so many disasters when we're not part of the planning on the day
Yeah.
of, and it's kind of the same philosophy applies to weddings. Yes, you
Yeah.
can plan them yourselves. And between Pinterest and Google's and all the forums and the brides and just
Yeah.
everything that's out there on the internet, it's very, very you can plan your own wedding. Not a huge thing, but when you have a planner and you have that experience behind there, you get such better quality out of the planning and especially on the day of because everything's planned correctly up to that point.
Yeah.
So you're not putting out little fires while you're in your wedding dress trying to enjoy your day.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing that I've seen as well is like everyone goes to the bride and goes, "Where do you want this? What do you want done with this? Where should the sandwiches go?" And I always suggest if they're not having a planner and I'm dealing with them, either photography or video, I say designate someone that has all the answers. Make sure they know all the answers. Make sure you prep them, just to make your day that much better because it's your day and you want to get the bride's input, but does it really matter? Should they really care where you're going to put the sandwiches for lunch? That kind of stuff. So I've seen that so many times and they just get so stressed out. And I'm like, honey, just leave it alone.
Absolutely. Absolutely, absolutely. By the time the dinner's over, a lot of them are completely stressed out because of these little questions. And
Yeah.
even if they have somebody like a personal assistant or a bridesmaid or somebody like that, they don't necessarily know all the answers. So a
Yeah.
lot of times it
They'll
still
run
gets
back to the bride anyway. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
definitely. Yeah. And I mean, even the planners that I've worked with don't have all the answers either. Nobody has all the answers, but they have the
Right.
experience to, oh, I'm pretty sure this is what the bride would want, versus I got to go ask her this, that kind of stuff. So,
Absolutely. And the
what,
longer that you do it too, the more times you encounter the same problems
yeah,
over and over again. It's the bride's first time encountering that problem, but
yeah,
we've done it multiple times. So we already kind of know how to gear that in a different direction or how to handle certain situations. And like you said, we've been working with the brides and the
yeah,
grooms, so we already kind of know what they want. And worst case, when we don't know the answers, we don't have to be up there for toasts or first dance or cake cutting. So we have those few minutes to run wherever we need to run to get the answers, which is nice.
Definitely. So what makes you different, you think, in the industry, your services and what you offer?
I think two of the main things, the main thing is that we only do weddings. That's a big thing. A lot of the companies that, even if they specialize in weddings, they'll still do other type of events, corporates, that kind of thing. So they're kind of geared more towards the event field, whereas we do weddings. Weddings is all we do. That's all we've done. We don't just specialize in it. That's what we do. And that's kind of a nice little thing too. Another thing that makes us a little bit unique is that we have a lot of training and education materials that we do in-house for brides. So even if you're not our client, you have access to worksheets that weren't designed by a third-party company. They were designed by wedding planners with the input of other wedding vendors. We're starting a how-to series, which is going to be really nice how-to videos regarding planning. And again, they're not like, you'll see stuff on the Knot and Minted and that kind of thing, but it's all third-party. A lot of our material, it's designed by our planners.
And it feels disconnected too, because I did an episode with Brandon about like 10 things to ask a videographer, and I got that directly from the Knot. And a lot of it hit home, but some of it that I kind of skipped over was just, it didn't feel like it would apply to the Wisconsin market or, Minnesota market. It just felt, like, I think I read an article about how you're not supposed to feed your wedding vendors, of the day of. And, that's certainly up to you and your choice, but they've been working, 12-hour day, mostly or over 12-hour days sometimes, and mostly without breaks, so that 30-minute, not even 30-minute break during dinner just to sit down and eat something really quick at a vendor table is really appreciated. And these articles that come out like that are not encouraging to me, because it's scaling the what's acceptable in the industry that way. So people with like yourself that are making educational material, I think helps that. Let's talk about timeline. What do you usually suggest for timeline during the day?
So timeline is kind of a tricky subject, because if the timeline's not done right, and it should be done minimum 2 weeks before, we always recommend 4 weeks before. But if it's not laid out right, it doesn't matter how well your staff is that day. It's really impossible to follow a timeline that's not put together. But as far as like kind of a basic timeline, when making a timeline, even when we do one for clients, we always reach out to the vendors themselves, because every DJ, every photographer, every videographer, everybody does things a little bit different. Yeah. So we'll kind of go over the details of the wedding and say, okay, how much time do you need for this first look? How much time is your staff going to need to get salads out and get the dinner buffet lined through for these many guests? And we always use the vendors' inputs, because again, every vendor is different. But honestly, there really is no typical timeline anymore when it comes to weddings. 14 years ago,
it always changes. It always changes the day of. So that's what I always say to my brides too. Don't stress the timeline, because it's going to change. Something's going to happen. One of your bridesmaids is going to break a zipper. Just something like that's going to happen. So don't. If the first look was supposed to happen at 1:00 and we don't get to it till 1:15, 1:30. Don't stress it. It's not that big of a deal. That kind
exactly.
Of stuff.
I always
as long as you pad it enough. Don't time it out by the minute. That's kind of a little bit too much, but that kind of stuff. So, how many bridal shows do you do a year? Going through your website, do you host a bridal show? Or is that what that is, or?
No, so the calendar on our website, we actually list all of the shows in the area, regardless on if there are shows, if we're in them. It's just basically kind of a consolidated go-to calendar for brides to use, so they don't have to use multiple sites. I know, like,
that makes sense.
A big one and not. And we do a few. We used to do more shows. We don't do as many trade shows hosted by others, because we started our own line about 3 years ago. We started expos done by Storm. So we do a lot of our own expos and workshops and that kind of thing now.
So I'm looking at this one video. I think it says what vendors really want to tell their clients.
Yes.
What does that mean? Fill me in on that, because there's a lot of things I really want to tell my clients that I don't.
So that was actually kind of a fun one.
Yeah.
That was back when we first started diving into social media. Again, I've been doing this a long time, so social media is new as far as I'm concerned in the business. If that,
Yeah.
yeah, that dates myself here.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I know
but
what
no,
you
so
mean.
that was
I
that
still
was
haven't
a whole.
figured out how to use Twitter myself. So,
Oh, I know that's our next project. But no, so that was a fun one. So social media, we used primarily Facebook, but we used a few other platforms too. And we reached out to vendors specifically and basically said, if there was no consequences, what would you like to tell clients? What would you like them to know about your side of what's going on pertaining to wedding planning? And we got tons of comments and emails and messages from all these different vendors. So it was kind of a fun project to put together. And then obviously we changed some wording depending on the vendor and how it came
yeah.
in, but we made it appealing kind of in a nice way for brides to kind of see. I don't want to say the dark side, but I don't know how to phrase that. Kind of the
I
backstage
would call
of
it
what
behind
vendors
the
really go
scenes.
through.
Behind the scenes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Yep. Kind
Yeah.
of seeing what vendors really go through because they only see it from their side of the table.
Yeah, definitely. And when we walk away trying to figure out the timeline and things like that, they necessarily don't see what we're talking about with other vendors on that time because we're just hashing things out like with the DJ and when should the entrance happen and make sure you're telling me about this, just all that stuff. So do not make this mistake with your makeup. Huh. Yeah, let's talk about that. Because I've noticed a few times where I've been doing photography and it's flash photography and I've been shooting the bride and they don't have a makeup artist. They do it themselves or one of their friends does it. And the flash makes it, they look okay when you see them on hand, but depending on how they apply it, the flash just makes it look bad. I have no other way to explain it, but it just looks bad. Even though they look good in person, but photogenically, it just looks bad. So any tips that you can think of to have them look as best they can, I guess, for the camera?
Absolutely. My number one recommendation is always hire a professional. They're
Yeah,
going to
of
do the
course.
best job and they know how to work with makeup. But if you're on a tight budget, you don't want to hire a professional, whatever your reason for that. If you're doing your own makeup, there's really good tips in that blog too. But the number one thing is when you're choosing your foundation, do not use anything that has SPF in it. There's a lot of
Sunblock.
I don't
Yep.
remember I don't remember what the chemical is, but there's something in the SPF on the foundation makeup that causes that flashback
Oh,
quite
yeah.
often.
Okay, that makes sense. Yep.
Yep.
Because it's
So
supposed to
SPF and
cut down on the
like the rays and the
the
light
rays and
and
whatever. Yeah, that makes sense. Definitely. Never
yep.
thought of it that way. That's a good tip.
Yeah, so it's a big one. And then some of the obvious, stay away from anything that shines, sparkles, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
Because that'll
glitter.
cause a flashback too. Yes, yes. Glitter
Glitter.
eyeshadow is not for wedding
No,
photographers.
no, definitely not. So anything that you can think of that I've missed that you want to talk about?
I don't really think so. We kind of covered a little bit of the basics on the company and kind of
Cool.
some tips in there. Like I said, there's a lot of good resources, and from a vendor standpoint too, we're always looking for input for our educational material.
Yeah.
We reach out to a lot of vendors, and we love to hear their side. Obviously, I've been doing this a long time, and I know a little bit about everything, but I'm not a professional videographer, photographer, DJ. So I love getting those inputs on things that we can help
definitely.
educate our brides even further.
Yeah. Communication I've found is the best, between vendors and clients. One thing I was going to ask, how many weddings do you do a year and how far do you book out?
So booking up, we've already started getting a few for 2021. A lot of the full planning, they start planning around that 18 to kind of 24-month period.
Okay.
We have some brides that get almost up until their wedding a month before and really start freaking out about what's going on. So sometimes if the date's free, we'll book, a month or two at a time. The biggest guideline with booking, I would have to say, is just like any other vendor, somewhere around that 12-month mark is a really good time.
12 months is really good. Going out past 12 months is kind of scary because you don't know anything can happen in that amount of time, and I've had inquiries for 2020 2. So we've just kind of had to say, well, give us a call when it gets a little bit closer. Definitely, because prices change, the economy changes, anything could change in 2 years, 3 years. So I just had my other question I was going to ask, but I completely forgot. Darn it. So, oh yes, going back to social media, that's what I was going to ask. Do you have an Instagram? Do you do anything in Instagram?
So the Done by Storm has an Instagram page.
Okay.
We haven't really dived too much into that yet. We have a account set up with all of them. We have Pinterest, Instagram, Twitter. Facebook is the first one that we've really started learning. Twitter is our next one because that's a major thing with our clientele and kind of age group. And I know Instagram, we've been working a little bit on just ever since they integrated with Facebook.
Instagram is huge. The younger crowd goes with Instagram more than Facebook, and even like Snapchat and Instagram stories are huge too. Anytime I post anything, I try to cut it up into like the 10-second stories just to put it on my story, just to get a little bit more travel, and you can actually promote them too, so it shows up as an ad. Do you do anything with like YouTube ads or anything like that?
No, like YouTube, AdWords? We just started with this whole how-to video series. We just started with YouTube. I think you have to have like 500 subscribers or something like that for a dedicated channel.
No, you don't. But to be able to monetize, you do, if you want to make money off of it. But you can pay YouTube to advertise. That's what I was getting at. So, like when you watch a video and that like 30-second ad or whatever pops up, you can target your clientele, and if they watch it for 5 seconds, you don't pay anything. If they watch it for the first 30 seconds, then it's like whatever you want to pay per day. Like I have one running, I'm paying like 25 cents a day, and I think I've spent $20 or something like that, and I've gotten like 2,000 views and a bunch of like leads off of it, so there's all kinds of ways to do it. We've even experimented with TV ads too, running it on TLC in between the bride, all the bride shows, like the dress and thing like that. So
there's plenty of them.
I'm a total guy. I don't know any of that stuff. So we kind of touched on the social media. What is your website and how do people get a hold of you?
It is donebystorm.com. All of our information is on the website. You can either inquire through there. We have the email, phone number. We're pretty transparent when it comes to that. As you've seen, we do like pricing on the pages and that type of thing too. Basically, what we offer is kind of out on the table for people to see right through that website. So
Mandy Storm, I would like to thank you for joining me on the podcast. Everybody check out her information. Her contacts will be in the show notes. And thank you for joining me again.
Thank you for having me.